Is Botox blocking your spiritual awakening? Today, I want to talk about the spiritual side effects of Botox, my personal experience with it and why I stopped getting it, because of what I think it's doing to our society and how I think it's becoming a new form of mind control. So, especially if you're a woman, but this is not just limited to women, but especially if you are a young girl, you know that we've been getting messages from the media our whole entire lives. I remember being 15 back in the day when we only had Women's World Weekly and It magazine, or In Touch magazine, and every new week there was a new diet fad. It was back in the Britney, Christina, Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan days. And I don't remember plastic surgery or Botox or fillers or anything like that being quite a thing back then. But back then you would see all these beautiful pop stars in belly shirts, and you'd start to, at least I would, compare myself to those people. And I was a young girl. I was not even 15 yet, so I was not even fully developed. And even before I was 14, I developed an eating disorder of sorts because of all this pressure I felt on me externally, especially when we grow up in families where our own parents may value beauty and their appearance. So we learn it from them. And especially if you grow up in like a nice neighborhood or the suburbs where everybody's kind of keeping up with the Joneses, then a lot of people can take pride in their appearance, and appearance becomes a huge part of our identity and self-esteem. So I can't imagine what girls are feeling these days, and even the young men. Like I said, it's not just limited to women now. It's kind of like everybody. Because what I've been noticing the last handful of years, especially the last 5 or so years, big time, the rise of fillers, Botox, lip injections, and how they're pushing it on younger and younger women. So the other thing that I noticed that I don't think is by mistake is that reality shows. It seems that in order to even qualify to be on one of these shows, one would have to have copious amounts of filler, Botox, lip injections, hair extensions, eyelashes, and even shows like The Bachelor, where a lot of the girls are getting hair extensions and the eyelashes and things to really beautify themselves when they're on a show like that. So not only is TV sending us these messages like, you have to have long hair and luscious hair, and you have to have long eyelashes and nails that look like a claw in order to be attractive to the opposite sex. And then we're even seeing men in Hollywood, Ryan Gosling, Bradley Cooper, Zac Efron, whose faces are changing, who are becoming like the poster child for it now being okay for men to do this. So why I think that this is a dangerous trend is because not only are they targeting younger and younger women, especially those who are in their 20s, and like I mentioned in another video, your brain isn't even fully developed until probably sometime in the late 20s or early 30s, I think. And I think it's that prefrontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, or the prefrontal lobe. And we're literally injecting neurotoxins right there, because Botox, for the most part, can be used for other things too. Some people get it for sweating, some people get it for migraines, but migraines, forehead, third eye. And I've even heard of women getting it in their chin. When I was getting it, a handful of years ago, my injector would be like, oh, well, we can, I noticed that you have a ptosis, which means one eye is bigger than the other one naturally. I can fix that for you by injecting more Botox on one side. And when you're in these injectors' offices, it's like, I don't know about anybody else who's ever been in this situation, but like when I go, every time I went in places like that in the past, it was like suddenly I was filled with insecurities that I didn't know that I had. Like I had never thought about the fact, at least that much in depth. Like I know my eyes are different sizes, but it was never like, it's just like this is who I am. I'm not really obsessing over it, but now that you pointed it out, maybe I should do something about it. So I let her inject me. And the craziest thing, at least about my personal situation, is that Botox can be extremely, extremely dangerous. It can even cause blindness if the injector doesn't do it right. And there are some horror stories of this on the media. There's a girl who went back to her injector it might have been a couple of days before the 2-week period that you're supposed to go for your touch-up to see how the Botox is settling. But I think she got it injected too early, and then she was left with an eye that was drooping, and then the other one was really big. So she had to wait for like 3 or 4 months for the Botox to wear off and do all these exercises to essentially not look like a freak. I mean, I'm not saying she looked like a freak, but I'm saying I'm sure she felt like she did. And I'm sure that was very embarrassing because you're going to an injector to look better, and then you come out looking like Quasimodo. Like, yikes, how humbling and terrifying is that, especially if you're going there because you're insecure in the first place, and now all of a sudden they mess up and now you can't show your face anywhere. Like, how emotionally devastating. So there's horror stories like that. There's also been stories of people going blind from it. And then there's a lot of stories I've seen recently on like TikTok and Instagram where people got it injected in their chins and stuff, and now they can't move one side of their face and their mouth is crooked and they have a lisp and some weird things are happening. So my point is, though, that at some point or another, especially if you're a woman who's trying to attract a man, and don't get me started on if you're, in your 30s and 40s and God forbid you're still single and don't have a child, then that seems to be even more of a need that us older ladies have felt, like we really need to get a hold on, right? If you're a certain age and you're single, your eggs are gonna fry up, right? If you don't use them. So gotta get a partner, right? So one of the things that we may be drawn to do is to go see these injectors to make ourselves, more high value for the men we hope to attract. Because for some reason in society, the high value men are the ones that have the job, the money, the, prestigious places in society, the Instagram followings, the ones who are jacked up and muscular and doing cold plunges or whatever. I'm just naming profiles that seem to have a lot of followers in the male industry for male beauty standards. And not to mention every guy who grows his hair out and now is making videos touching his hair and he's got 5 million views on it. So don't even get me started on that. So there's beauty standards for men too. So if women are, feeling the pressure to like attain these type of men or something, then it's absolutely like a rite of passage as a female to at some point in your 20s or 30s probably go see an injector, or at least feel pressured to. So that was the case for me. A lot of people around me kind of like pressuring me, and then also all of a sudden just being aware of my age. Like, well, maybe they're right. I'm 33. It's only going to get worse from here, right? Which is wrong, and I will tell you why that's wrong in a little bit, as well as provide you with alternatives to Botox if you are looking. But, I thought mistakenly that Botox was my only option. And I will never forget going into the injector and getting the paperwork where they explain the side effects and what can go wrong, and they're not liable for it. It can cause blindness. It can cause, botulism is a very serious disease, or whatever botulism is. It's very dangerous. Yet you're walking into these injector offices and they kind of have that beauty pageant performative attitude, like a hairdresser, but not as warm and friendly as a hairdresser. Like, I love hairdressers because whenever I get my hair done, it's like you always pick up right where you left off. Like, they're so good at talking to their clients. But an injector has kind of the same feel, except at least for me, every injector I've seen, it's been a little bit colder and a little more performative. And then I started noticing all of these different clinics pop up out of nowhere. They've got toxin tonics now where you can go sip on some booze when you get your Botox. But going back to my personal experience getting it, I'll never forget reading the side effects of what could go wrong and then thinking to myself, like, I don't want to sign off on this, but I want to be pretty and I don't want to age, so I guess I'm going to do it. And back then I had a little extra money, so it was like, that's why poverty can sometimes be a blessing, because sometimes when you have more money than you need, you will find things to spend it on. Hence, maybe beauty products that might be filled with parabens and chemicals and neurotoxins if you're getting Botox. So anyways, I started getting Botox, and the first injector I saw, I think the first couple of times I got it, I was happy because I was like, cool, like my forehead wrinkle went away, and that was something I was always really insecure about. But after, I don't know, after maybe 6 months, I don't know if it was 6 months, it might have been like a year or so after getting it, I started to notice I had crow's feet around my eyes. And I think it's because now all of a sudden your face muscles like atrophied, so other muscles that weren't working so hard before are now struggling to smile. Because what people fail to understand is that our facial expressions are so important when it comes to communicating with other people. And what is happening is that as we continue to freeze our faces under the guise of self-care or whatever, we are just getting rid of those mirror neurons. So it can absolutely affect our relationships, which is a huge point I want to make in this video. So side note real quick, going back to the crow's feet, I don't know if I finished this thought, but I was just saying that if you're constantly injecting Botox into your muscles and making those muscles weaker and atrophy, you can get new lines that you never had. And I did want to add, before I forget this, that another muscle that really came back prominent for me when I stopped Botox was this one. And I never had like 11 lines before, but it seems that as the other muscles were softening, I don't know if that one had to work harder or what, but that happened to me. So anyways, how do I think that this is affecting our relationships? Well, I can tell you from personal experience that the whole time I was getting Botox, which was about a 2-year period in my mid-30s, I would attract a lot of partners. And I was, part of the reason for that was because, I'm bubbly, I'm outgoing, and put a lot of energy into my appearance or whatever. But also I was making myself available because I was always doing social activities and I was really involved in AA. So most of my boyfriends were in recovery circles. And I believe that when you're in these kind of rooms, like the 13th step is real, because basically you're in a position where you're super vulnerable because you're just quitting alcohol and whatnot. And now you're sharing all of these intimate details about your life, and other people are relating to them. And you're like, wow, no one's ever got me like this. I feel like I know these people. But it can create kind of a false sense of intimacy and rush intimacy in a lot of ways. So I believe that was part of my relationship cycle that I was in. But also, I was putting in so much energy to my appearance that I was attracting the guys that cared about my appearance. So do you see how that can become a double-edged sword? Because what's happening is almost like the more externally beautiful I felt that I got, the more the men wouldn't care about my insides. Who would have thought? And I love guys. I'm not here to hate on anyone, but I'm just saying that men a lot of times tend to think with one thing, especially when they're not awakened or cognizant of these things and they don't have any control over their lower natures. They're gonna be attracted to whatever, how do I say this, moves the whistle, so to speak, and they're going to be attracted to, what you're putting out there. If you're making an emphasis on your, whether it's your cleavage or your hair or your lips, they're probably going to think of one thing and then be attracted to you, and you may get a guy, but are you going to keep him? And is he the kind of guy you want to get and that you want to keep? So in my case, I was attracting a lot of men who were selfish and narcissistic, but hey, I guess I was too, because I was putting so much attention on my appearance instead of leading with my authentic self, because I didn't have that confidence that I was, naturally beautiful, or that my personality may carry me enough to attract somebody that I wanted to date or whatnot. So for me, it caused a lot of problems in my relationships. And I bet it was confusing to them too, because if you think about men, again, another generalization, but men typically not being as emotionally intelligent or aware as women. And then you've got all these women who are getting Botox, so now their faces are frozen and they don't have those micro expressions to show men that they're upset. Or they go to an injector who does too much, just a little too much, that makes their brow seem furrowed and angry, because that's another popular complaint from people that get Botox and decide not to keep getting it. Their brow furrows and they feel like they look angry. Others might look evil because they get the eyebrow lift. So anyways, in my situation, I think that because my face was so frozen and I had that, obsession with how I looked, I don't think it was helping me be an effective communicator. And I don't think these men were able to take me seriously, because most of the time my face just looks like, frozen in one expression. They don't know that I'm mad. They don't know that what they're doing is upsetting me. And also, when you, as a woman or a man, have had a lot of partners and a lot of them have been based on your looks or physical attraction, that creates a lot of wounding. So you end up trauma bonding with a lot of people. There's a lot of wounding, and then you tend to attract people who also have the wounds that mirror you, but those burdens become extremely heavy to carry. So instead of just being able to take time and space from your last relationship to heal, I feel like what was happening to me, and what probably happens to a lot of really pretty women, I'm talking reality stars, musicians, whatever, those who really put a lot of energy into their appearance, what's probably happening to them is that they're getting broken up with, but hey, it's fine because I can always go out. I just need to go show my face online or post a bikini pic, and maybe not even a bikini pic. Maybe I just show up with my face and a guy or maybe 15 guys are going to be messaging me. So I have essentially the pick of the litter. There's always guys who are going to be interested in me. So I never have to be single. I never have to be alone. And this can be a huge curse to the individual, who was well-meaning in the fact that they wanted to fix their insecurities so they could find love. But in reality, they end up attracting a bunch of trauma bonds and people that don't value them for their soul. So then the relationship just becomes all about appearance and physicality. So anyway, not to mention the fact that a lot of these girls also end up working in adult industries in some way. So then for men, it's creating this idealized expectations of what a normal woman should look like. So they're chasing some ideal that they've seen in I'll just say a corn video for the sake of the YouTube AI moderators, but they are starting to, they have a certain image that they idolize because they've seen it online in corn. So not only do women feel the pressure to keep up with that, because we all know that you guys are watching and it's going to make women insecure, but also men can turn it back around on us and be like, well, just because you're not watching that every night, maybe you don't have your own website, you're also kind of contributing to the problem because you're also, using people like I use, or like a man might use corn, because a woman can pretty much, and men can do this too sometimes, but for the most part, if a woman wanted to, she probably has better chances of finding a partner any night of the week just by showing her face. But that can be extremely taxing on your soul because, as I've mentioned in some of my other videos, your sacral energy center, it rules your sexuality, but your creative energy center as well. And every time we open our energy field up to sleep with somebody and be intimate with somebody, we take on their burden. It opens a portal. It creates an energetic attachment. So the more partners you have, the more energetic burdens you're going to be carrying. So what I see happening in society is that we've got all these people focused on beauty standards. Again, whether that's because men idolize women in the adult industry, Women are trying to live up to them. Women might need to make a buck or two and get their own site. Or women are chasing these beauty standards as well to be more attractive to these men. But what seems to be happening is that I'm losing my thought because I'm trying to make sure there's no snakes out here. But what tends to be happening is it's just creating cycles of trauma bonding, and then everybody's, not everybody, but like in this kind of circle, this kind of group of people, like the body counts are growing and you're carrying around more, spiritual baggage from other people. So where am I going with this? I think I touched on the mirror neuron effect, so that was an important takeaway that I wanted to talk about, and how it's freezing our faces, so we're not able to communicate. We might have a resting BITCH face, if you get it. And not to mention the fillers aspect, which are even more dangerous than the Botox, or maybe around the same level. But the filler aspect is that I believe it pumps your face with hyaluronic acid, which your body produces naturally, but it can migrate. And I've seen it migrate in people, and they ended up in the hospital and literally almost lost their life. And the internet's not gonna be talking about that. Your injector's not gonna tell you that, because they're trying to make money. And the younger they can get you in to start becoming a client, you're gonna be a lifelong client. So what happens if you can't afford Botox anymore? Well, I'll tell you, like I already said, you're gonna see wrinkles that you didn't have before. Your face that was once young and plump, it's just not gonna be the same. I mean, I don't know if it's just natural aging after that, or if it's, permanent damage only from getting Botox for 2 years and then deciding to stop. But just now, the fact that it activated different muscles and deactivated some. So I do want to talk about aging and reverse aging, because reverse aging is absolutely a thing. And I think this could benefit a lot of people who do, value their appearance, but want to approach it from a more natural standpoint. So they don't want to feed into the unrealistic beauty standards, or the, big pharma trying to profit off of young, insecure women or people. So there are natural things that we can do. And I talk about this all the time. So exercise, which is going to improve the circulation in your skin, in your body. Daily exercise, and it's also going to provide you with a boost of natural endorphins, so you don't need to get your hit of dopamine from the Botox or the filler or the lip injections, which can also be a dopamine addiction for a lot of people, especially if they're visiting their injectors often. Another thing that you can do, I have one friend who worked at a farm. She was a personal chef, and she sources her ingredients from like Whole Foods, local farms, like mostly local farms, and if not, then Whole Foods, but places that have high quality ingredients. And she eats a natural diet. This girl has the most beautiful hair, the most beautiful skin, and you can just tell that she glows from the inside out from her diet and her lifestyle. And then you see people on the internet who also are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and they look like they're like 40 because they have that lifestyle. They're eating food that has water in it naturally. They are not smoking. They're not drinking alcohol, which dries out the skin. They're not aging themselves with acidic coffee or lifestyle habits. And they're also exercising as well. So this is just through simple observation of other people, but also myself. Because as I was, right before I started my Botox journey, I had been an on and off smoker for about 10 years. So I had switched between cigarettes and vaping, and quit for a while, go back to cigarettes, stop that, go back to vaping, stop that, go back to cigarettes, until I finally quit for good in 2020. But back then, that was around the time that I started getting Botox. So that was when my wrinkles were becoming really noticeable, because, a decade of smoking and drinking is definitely going to catch up with you. And my skin also looked dry. And then when I took up MJ again in my, a handful of years later, after I had stopped getting Botox, that year my face just got really bad. My skin was really dry. I always looked tired, and it looked like my forehead was always just like heavy, and there was always like a crease in my eyebrows. So I was starting to really notice that dead look in my eye. I was gonna say kind of I don't know, I'm going to offend somebody if I say this. There's certain stars that just have that like dead look in their eyes, that like they're always under the influence, like just not much going on behind the eyes. And that's kind of what I was looking like when I was doing the daily MJ use. So what I noticed is that I started aging really fast. And then when I quit close to 10 months ago, I quit all that stuff for good. So now my lifestyle habit is a daily hike every single day, decaf instead of caffeinated coffee. And that's like the last thing I'm really working on. I hope that as I get a budget for like mushroom tea, that I'll be able to try something like mud water or some kind of medicinal mushrooms maybe to be my morning coffee ritual, or maybe switch it with tea. But right now that's kind of my morning ritual, to go to my local gas station and say hi to my friends at the gas station and get my decaf coffee. And it's really cheap there, so it's not making a dent on my budget at all. So that's, you know, what I've been dealing with now. That's like one of my last chemical addictions, because I think decaf even has a little bit of caffeine in it, and I'd love to get off of it completely, because I know the acidity of the coffee can also age you and can also make your body make like receptive to cancer cells. I think when your body's more acidic, you're more likely to have those kind of growths. So I've read in a lot of sources that you want to keep your body more alkaline if possible. So fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, healthy oils or fats like avocado, a lot of cruciferous, did I say that right? Vegetables. So vegetables and fruit that are going to contain a high water volume. And then that daily activity is going to start giving you a natural glow. And then I also use things like frownies. Frownies I like a lot because they're not a neurotoxin in your head, and it literally creates kind of a cast for your face. So it just prevents your face from wrinkling onto itself and creating those deep lines when you're sleeping. And it also kind of softens the muscles and frees them and trains them from moving so often. So I can still move my eyes and my forehead, which I could do that in another video if you want, but I'm trying to keep my smooth look. And plus the sun is outrageous right now, but I can still move my forehead. And the line, every time I take the frownies off, the line is like gone. And of course it comes back a little later in the day, but it's still so much less noticeable than it ever was back before I even started getting Botox back in 2020. And I've also experimented with scar tape. So silicone scar tape can also soften your lines. So when I didn't have frownies, I would use that because that's a little cheaper than frownies. And that also made a difference in, you know, how my line looked. And the other thing I really like for skincare, that's a natural skincare routine, is Manuka honey. And what I would do is like make my own little frownies. I put Manuka honey and then put a piece of parchment paper over it and then a bandana over it to hold that. So it would moisturize that area and kind of give the appearance of skin that's more plumped up. But because Manuka honey has so many nutrients and all that good stuff in it, I also put it on my cheeks and stuff too, and it would give my skin this natural glow. So now I kind of ditched all of my natural skincare products because I realized that one of the leading causes of breast cancer is, what is it called? I can't think of the word right now. I said it earlier in this video, I think. I can't for the life of me. I think it's like pH something. But so share it in the comments if you want. But basically, most comments, it's like sulfates. I don't think it's sulfates. It's I don't know, something that is often, I think they have it in shampoo and a lot of beauty products. But anyways, whatever word I'm thinking of, can lead to breast cancer. It's like one of the things that can lead to it. So I ditched all my not natural skincare products, and now I wash my face with honey if I wash it, but I don't wear foundation anymore. So I don't really have to wash my face. And if I do wash it, I'm just, wash it with water or honey, or I also use skin oils like rosehip oil is a good one. And then castor oil, if it's hexane free, cold pressed castor oil, that can also be a good moisturizer, but it can also be kind of drying. But it's great for cystic acne. Like if I just put it on a cystic acne, which I get on my chin a lot because my dogs lick my face. So I get cystic acne from time to time there, and every time I put the castor oil on, it will be gone within 24 hours usually, or at least significantly shrunk by then. So those are all some, things that can help if you feel insecure about Botox, but you're thinking to yourself, well, do I want to be part of the problem or part of the solution? Like maybe it is having an effect on my spiritual life, my intuition, my ability to express emotions to my partner, which might be having an effect on my love life. And I don't even think we really got to talk in depth about the pineal gland as much as I wanted to, but the fact that we're injecting it in our foreheads mainly, right into the pineal gland, which is your spiritual center, which is your intuition, which is how we, where we perceive the spirit world. And I remember back when I was getting it, it didn't completely shut it down, but it shut it down a lot. It really impaired my judgment when it came to men and my love life. And that could have, probably been because my focus was so much on the external, but I also really believe in the mirror neurons. I really believe that when our faces are frozen, we can't always communicate clearly with other people, and I think it can cause problems in how we communicate and how we express ourselves. Plus, I might be wrong about this. I think people like to look at beautiful things, but I think at the end of the day, maybe, like when it comes to having a partner that you gel with, that you feel good in their presence, that you can be yourself with, I think it's more interesting and more exciting to be with somebody who might be a little imperfect versus somebody who's so concerned with how they look that they're so uptight all the time. And I feel like I kind of got into that habit during certain phases of my life. And I see a lot of these girls on reality TV. I don't watch reality TV, but I do see these clips pop up a lot in my news feeds on social media. Every so often I'll get curious and I'll just be like, what is this? What are they talking about? And my mom, of course, is obsessed with it. So every time I talk to my mom, it's like, oh, so-and-so about reality TV, and this girl did this, and these guys are together, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh my God. So, and I've even watched a couple episodes like with her when I'm just hanging out with her. But even just observing it for like 1 or 2 episodes and just like seeing the caliber of people that they have on the TV, like I said earlier, it's almost like a qualification. In order to be on TV, you have to have all the plastic surgery things. And to me, that is pushing an agenda. They're trying to profit off of our insecurities again and turn us into consumers again. Because if they didn't have well, first of all, they know that those shows are going to be vying for our attention. So advertisers are trying to buy our attention and convert their followers into sales. So if they can have all of the, contestants of a reality TV show who are going to their injectors, and then on their Instagram pages, they're getting the free treatments and they're showing everybody, oh, it's so easy, it's fine, doesn't hurt. Not to mention, by the way, BBL is one of the most dangerous procedures you can get. And then let's look at like Kim Kardashian and Cardi B and all these famous people with like a badunkadunk. And, there's a lot of stuff like on the media, like about how much they smell and how much it kills the healthy tissue. But these girls on the reality shows have them, so it's creating this certain look that people start to become obsessed with achieving for themselves without realizing the dangers that are involved in that. And then if you get like breast implants or butt implants or whatever, eventually, if I'm not mistaken, you have to get them replaced like every 10 years or something. So if you get it one time, you're signing up for more surgery in the future. So if you change over the course of a decade and all of a sudden you're like, I just don't like doctors anymore, or I don't want to give over my digital ID and move to a city and like have all these regulations on me. But in order to see a doctor or have surgery, I have to, apparently. So I have to sign over my personal information now. So it's a way to control us, keep us stuck to a grid, because if we're reliant on a doctor and we got to come back, every 10 years, every 5 years, just to check and make sure nothing's going wrong, like that's a lot of money in their pocket too. It's a lot of money out of ours. So my mentality with all of this was like, and life in general, one of the reasons why I got sober in the first place, why I got off my psych meds in the first place, why I stopped smoking and drinking, and even with coffee and lattes and all those things, like they're all money pits and they're all attention stealers and hijackers. And some of them are less harmful than others outwardly, but at the end of the day, the common denominator is that it all steals our attention. And for me, that addiction is something that was activated nearly every day, no matter what, what my poison was. And because my attention was hijacked and focused elsewhere, I wasn't able to have a YouTube channel a handful of years ago. Like if I'd started 5 years ago, I'd probably be making a lot more money now, and I could probably have land now and have been way started with my animal rescue. But instead, I had to go through the cycle of like crappy boyfriends and low self-esteem and like quitting all these addictive things, which, in the end served its purpose because I can talk about it here and like share it as content and, learn from my mistakes, guys, and attempt to help people so they don't have the same mistakes that I did, and also the people who are looking for help out of these toxic cycles. Like I feel like that's where I shine right now, and that's what I feel the best about talking about and sharing, because I know how disempowering it is when you're stuck in all these addictive cycles, and I know the effect it can have on your soul. So now I'm passionate about sharing these things. So nothing is wasted in God's economy. This was all for a reason that I had to go on the path that I did. But I'm just saying, the younger you start with this, the more you give up, and the more that you don't need, like the movie Into the Wild, the more free you are. You won't be tied down by these systems, especially if we keep moving towards this transhumanism agenda and Big Brother wanting to surveil everything, like mass surveillance everywhere, and the digital ID, digital passport, whatever they're trying to do. It's just a lot more empowering to me to be like, I can take care of myself regardless of what is going on in society, with the government, with whatever's around me. So the goal in my life is to just eliminate all these things that I felt so dependent on throughout most of my life. And it opens up your spiritual connection too. And I've heard this a lot too in spiritual circles. It's like every time you give something up, you reach a new level spiritually. So it's spiritual discipline. It's every time you have discipline, it unlocks a new level of your spirituality and personal growth and abundance. So it's a new level of abundance in your life. So that abundance can look different ways for different people, whether that abundance is more money, a career that's fulfilling, a partner or relationship that's not toxic, a home move, a pet, like whatever that level of abundance is for you. They happen when we can get out of our own way by giving up these addictions. So anyways, hope you got something out of this video. Hope you at least use discernment. This video is not meant to be judgmental. I'm not trying to shut down any industries. Do what you want that makes you happy. I just wanted to share my experience and what I wish I had known before. And I wanted to warn people of the dangers of Botox and fillers and lip injections and BBLs and all that stuff, because it's not as casual of a thing as they're making it seem. And I believe it's a form of mind control to keep us in lower states of consciousness, dependent on things outside of us, low self-esteem. So we always need something outside to make us better, chasing the dangling carrot of the one. Like, it's all connected here. That's why I feel like I could endlessly talk on this channel about so many different topics, because they all seem to be connected in some way, shape, or form. They all seem to be connected to, what we have control over versus the attention that organizations, entities, demons, archons, whatever, secret societies, whatever, are trying to siphon from us. So the whole goal of this channel is like, help you stay awake, help you stay aware. And I have tools for that. I have a free fear inventory, belief exploration worksheet, and 21 days habits tracker, so you can get rid of those low vibe habits that are keeping you stuck. It is free. It's listed as pay what you can. So like I always say, I love the tips. I love when people pay me for my work, but I also want it to be available for anyone who needs it. So sometimes we're not always able to pay it forward financially. So if you want to, share it through liking the video, subscribing to my channel, sharing it with a friend, that's always appreciated too. But I also have an ESP development course, and I have opportunities to work with me one-on-one for readings, astrology, human design, and remote viewing tarot have all changed my life in such a positive way. And I provide guidance and clarity in my tarot sessions. I don't do personal counseling sessions, but I do offer guidance in the form of voice messages, and in the form of tarot and remote viewing messages that are delivered via voice memos, so you can save them and look back to them a year from now, 6 months from now, I always like to look back at readings that I had with psychics because I can see how far I've come and how far I've grown since then. So that's why I do them that way. But I will be honest, my schedule is getting really full as my channel grows. And even though I look like, like I may not have a ton of followers right now, but it's steadily growing and I get a ton of messages every single day because of the topics that I bring up here. And I just simply don't have time to read everything. So I encourage you guys to use my community tab. Reach out to people in the comments section. There's great insights on this channel. And the whole reason I wanted to create this community and talk about these topics is so people can find healing, strength, community. So you are all welcome here. And I invite you to make some friends in the comments section, especially if I'm not around to hear personal stories. But if you are interested in working with me one-on-one while I still can, then definitely check out the links in my description. So thank you for watching, and let me know if you have any ideas for the next topic, and I'll see you guys in the next video.